वेलकम टू दिस एपिसोड ऑफ द हरप्रीत सिंह शो। कुछ ही दिन पहला सुप्रीम कोर्ट ऑफ कैनेडा ने एक फैसला सुनाया जिस ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿਹਾ ਗਿਆ ਕਿ ਦੇ ਵਪਾਰ ਦੇ ਧੰਦੇ ਕਰਨ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬ੍ਰੋਥਲਸ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬੰਦ ਨਾ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਏ ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਮੰਗ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਮੁਲਾਕਾਤ ਕਰਵਾਉਣ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਤਨਾਇਆ ਫਿਓਲੇ ਨਾਲ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਸਾਬਕਾ ਮੈਡਮ ਹਨ ਅਤੇ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਦੇ ਵਪਾਰ ਦਾ ਧੰਦਾ ਕਰਿਆ ਕਰਦੇ ਸਨ। ਆਓ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਕੋਲੋਂ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਰੂਲਿੰਗ ਹੈ ਇਸ ਦਾ ਕੀ ਇੰਪੈਕਟ ਪੈ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੀ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਇਸ ਸਮੇਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਲੋਕ ਜੁੜੇ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ ਇਸ ਧੰਦੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਕੀ ਸੋਚਣਾ ਹੈ। Welcome to the program, Tania.
Thank you, Harpreet.
So, Tania, this decision of the Supreme Court, how do you view this?
How do I view this? Well, I don't agree that it's a good decision because they're stating that it's making it safer for the girls now because they have a safe place to work. But what does that say for the girls that are on the street, that are drug addicted? They don't have really much chance of getting hired in a brothel anyway, so that still leaves them vulnerable on the street. And they were saying that, you know, on the news that basically it's a lot safer for them because they're working inside. From my personal experience as a brothel owner, the girls that are working in brothels, they cannot turn down a client because then it's bad business. His feelings can get hurt. So you have to see whoever comes and sees you, right? Whereas if you're on the street, you have the choice whether you get into the car or not. So in a sense, is it really safer? You know, and from my personal opinion, you know, I rescue so many girls that come out of it now, and I ask them, have you ever attempted suicide? 2 out of 3 of the girls tell me they have, and more than once. Me myself have even attempted suicide. So the suicide rate with these girls that are in prostitution is extremely high, and those are just the ones that are admitting it. Yeah.
Okay, so now because the government has been focusing on this issue and it has been a big, you know, kind of setback for them. So how do you view this? Now, what can the government do? Should they, it's being said that they're going to appeal this decision. Should they appeal the decision? And what kind of, you know, rules they should bring by which people who are involved in this trade can really feel safer?
Well, I feel that what we should be doing is we should be adapting the Nordic model, which was very effective in Sweden. And what it did was it brought the prostitution down by 50%, 40 to 50% in the first 3 years, with barely any of it going underground. And what the Nordic model is you know, the women in prostitution tend to get arrested a lot for soliciting and so forth. But why should they be arrested when the majority of them are pimped? So they kind of have to solicit, Whereas what it does is the Nordic model shifts the blame off of the girl and onto the John. And then if he's caught buying, then he gets arrested. So if you cut down the demand, you cut down the supply. And then the next thing we need to do is we need to focus on doing the prevention work. Getting into the schools, universities. I was just speaking at UBC the other day, really educating these young ladies. I had a young lady that was a BCIT student recently with a 4.2 GPA. She fell into prostitution to pay her student fees, and I was supposed to pick her up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and she'd hung herself and died. So this doesn't just happen to the girls on the street, it happens to young girls. So we really need to, in college and stuff, so we need to do the prevention work, especially with the statistics being that less than 3% of the girls that are in it can get out. And then if 2/3 of their children end up being career criminals or doing the same thing, what does that say for our future generations? That's really scary. We're going to be filling up the jails, we're going to have a lot of problems with diseases and so forth. And they also say that it's safer because the ladies are getting, once the brothels are legal, they get tested. Who's that safer for? Is that safer for the girl or is that safer for the John? Because they don't have to get tested. They can come and transmit these diseases to the girls. And then when she catches it, she gets fired. She's on the street anyway. So it's just really not a good decision.
So tonight the government is focusing on getting more tougher sentences and building up more jails and giving longer sentences to these people. So you feel that no, the focus should be on the prevention part, and like you yourself, were in this trade and you then left it, and now you are in that prevention field whereby you are going and educating and creating awareness about these issues.
Yes.
So how would your message to be to the government as such? Because right now what we are seeing is that the government is serious about curbing these things, but they are taking a different kind of approach. So do you agree with that?
My message would be to the government to stop, to stop being pimps.
Right.
Because you know what? If you legalize it and then now the girls are legit, they're paying taxes, doesn't that make the government a pimp? When I ran brothels,
Right.
My business license was over $4,000 a year. But for all the other businesses, nail salons, coffee shops and stuff, it was only $174 a year. So
Right.
doesn't that make the city, the government, pimps? It's all about the money.
Right.
It's not about what's doing right, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, because this decision is a lot of different opinions are coming forward, and you yourself feel that no, this should be a second approach, a different kind of approach which should be adopted by the government. But right now, the situation is serious. This is a issue which we face in all the countries, and especially in Canada, when you talk about the Johns going away, getting away with the law. And right now, it's quite docile. You know, the situation is quite different and quite volatile. I'm sorry, not docile, but volatile.
Yes, it
so
is.
over now, because the situation is going to remain like this, if the economic circumstances, and you also mentioned about it's not a question of somebody on the street or somebody, even educated girls are also falling prey to this kind of thing. So right now, the message you are trying to spread across, if you could let us know a little bit, what kind of progress you are making?
Well, I would say to adopt the Nordic model and to try and encourage our women to get educations and not to be prostitutes. Because what happens is these girls that are going and they're working in the brothels, they might start out young. From employing well over 500,
Right.
okay, they come to me and say, oh, I'm just going to go to school for a year. I'm just going to do this for 1 year to save money, to put myself through school,
Right.
and then I'm going to get an education and all that stuff, right? After they see the kind of money that they make within 3 months, there's no girls that are going to school.
Right.
I've been out of it for over a decade now. I'm now rescuing them, trying to help them get out because they can't get out. None of them have gone
Right.
to school.
Right.
So that's just, I would say to basically to educate the public and talk about how damaging it is, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing right now, because I can't see any other madam that's gonna give
Come
up
forward,
all
yeah.
the money,
Right.
because it's all about this with them and it's all about this with the government, and do the right thing, right? But I had a conscience when I saw the long-term effects
Right.
of what this industry does to these women. I have to do something about this. There's nothing safe about being in prostitution. If the majority of brothels are run and owned by criminal organizations, is it safe to work for a criminal organization? What about the internal damage and the medical costs that it's going to cost the government after for dealing with their antidepressants and their post-trauma and diseases that they're catching and so on?
Right.
It's just, it's not wise.
And while you are demanding from the government that they should focus on the preventive side also,
Yeah.
What about the public? Now, what would be your message towards the end to the public?
My message would be to the public to contact your ombudsman, write your members of parliament, do everything that you can to, sign petitions and stuff to say no. We've
Right.
got a year to fight this now. So,
Right.
yeah.
Tania, thank you very much for coming forward. As always, you have been a role model for those who are helpless, who are on the streets, but you have come forward with your conscience, as you say, and now you're rescuing them and putting them back into their normal life. God bless you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
ਜੋ ਅੱਜ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਤਨਾਇਆ ਨੇ, ਜੋ ਸੁਪਰੀਮ ਕੋਰਟ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਫੈਸਲਾ ਲਿਆ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਬ੍ਰੋਥਲਸ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੇ ਦੇਹ ਵਪਾਰ ਦੇ ਅੱਡੇ ਇਹ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਹੀ ਰਹਿਣੇ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ ਨੇ, ਸੁਪਰੀਮ ਕੋਰਟ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਹੈ, ਲੇਕਿਨ ਤਨਾਇਆ ਦਾ ਮੰਨਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਨਹੀਂ, ਇਹ ਗਲਤ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਤੋਂ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਮੰਗ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਪ੍ਰੀਵੈਂਸ਼ਨ ਵਾਲੇ ਪਾਸੇ ਹੋਰ ਫੋਕਸ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਏ, ਲੋਕਾਂ 'ਚ ਅਵੇਅਰਨੈਸ ਕ੍ਰੀਏਟ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾਏ। ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲੋਕ ਇਹ ਕੰਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅੱਗੇ ਆ ਕੇ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਉਠਾ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਮਦਦ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾਏ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਤੱਕ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਸਕੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਆਪਣੇ ਕੰਨ ਬੰਦ ਕਰਕੇ ਬੈਠੇ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ, ਅਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਲੜਕੀਆਂ ਇਸ ਸਮੇਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਸਟੀਟਿਊਸ਼ਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਫਸੀਆਂ ਪਈਆਂ ਨੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਸਹਾਰਾ ਬਣ ਕੇ ਕੋਈ ਆਰਗੇਨਾਈਜੇਸ਼ਨਸ ਅਤੇ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਅੱਗੇ ਆਵੇ ਅਤੇ ਸਿਰਫ ਲਿਪ ਸਰਵਿਸ ਹੀ ਨਾ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਜਾਵੇ।